Hey Met fans, Brian here at Mets Mayhem. In this video, I'm going to go over the Mets season thus far, broken down by month, and how they performed each month versus the competition that they played, as well as provide a look ahead to the month of June. Now the Mets started the season off in March going 2-2, before taking off in April going 19-8, bringing their record to 21-10 coming into the month of May. So what I did was divide the games into three categories. You have the gimme games. Now the gimme games are against some of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. And for a team like the Mets, of their caliber and aspirations, you really should get fat on these games. Then you have the competitive games. These are against some teams that are floating around 500, maybe a little bit below it, maybe above it. They aren't horrible. They may actually be good. But they're not the teams that you're seriously going to consider to make a deep run during this season in the playoffs. Then you have the top teams. Pretty self-explanatory here. These are the elite teams in Major League Baseball, the division leaders, the teams that are well above 500, the teams who you think are going to be in serious contention to win a championship this year. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at the Mets in the month of March and April. And we see in March, like I said, they were only 2-2. They had one gimme game. It was against the Marlins. They were 1-0 here. And then they played against the Astros. We put them in the competitive game bracket, and they were 1-2 against the Astros in March. Now, for the month of April, the Mets went 19-8. They had 12 gimme games. They went 7-5 in those gimme games. They played the Marlins 5 times. They went 3-2 against the Marlins. They played the Nationals 4 times. They went 2-2. They played the Athletics 3 times, going 2-1. Then we see in the competitive games, there was 12 total. They went 9-3 here. Against the Twins, they were 1-2. They swept the Cardinals 4 games. They were 1-1 against the Diamondbacks, and they swept the Blue Jays in 3 games. And then they had 3 games against the Phillies, who we throw in the top tier teams. So they were 3-0 there. So the Mets got hot, and they swept 2 competitive teams in the Blue Jays and Cardinals, and 1 top team in the Phillies. They picked up 9 of their 19 wins right there. They actually did worse overall against the gimme games, splitting with the Nationals and only winning 3 out of 5 versus the Marlins. So let's look at the month of May. The month of May has been different. They've had 8 gimme games total. They're currently 4-2 with 2 games pending against the Rockies to finish off the month of May. They were 2-1 against the Pirates, 2-1 against the White Sox, and like I said, it's still to be determined against the Rockies. They've had 10 competitive games in the month of May, and they've gone 4-6. So they didn't do so well here. They went 2-2 against the Diamondbacks, 1-2 against the Cardinals, and 1-2 against the Red Sox. They've had more games against top tier teams this month. They're 5-4. They won this series against the Cubs and Dodgers 2-1, and they lost the series to the Yankees 1-2. So the Mets didn't have very many gimme games in May as they did in April, even though they have done better thus far percentage-wise. They should have done better in April. Hopefully the Mets do pick up these 2 wins against the Rockies to close out this month. They did have more games against top teams in Major League Baseball, and they held their own. Like I said, they won 2 out of 3 series. They're 5-4 overall. They struggled severely against the competitive teams, going 4-6. So a season has ebbs and flows. The Mets currently have 34 wins. They're tied for the 5th most in baseball with the Dodgers. They're 2.5 games behind the Tigers for the best record in baseball, 12 games above 500. The Mets are not doing poorly. They had such a hot streak in April, and it kind of cooled off. What's going to happen next month? Are they going to start to heat up again? Or is it going to be more of the same of May? Personally, I think the bats are going to come around. But let's look at the reason why the Mets had a down month in May versus April. If you look at their average, in April they were batting .255 as a team. They were tied for the 7th best. In May they dropped to .244. It's an 11-point difference, but it's the 18th best in Major League Baseball. Their on-base percentage was .329. They were the 9th best in April. It has gone up this month. It's .335. They're the 4th best in baseball. They're slugging. They were 8th best at .424 in April. They've dropped to .388. This can be largely attributed to Pete Alonso going on a kind of a home run strike until recently. They're 19th best in the month of May. for OPS, they still weren't doing very well in April. They were 753, 24th best. It has gone up a little bit this month. They're 723. They scored 133 runs in April, only 95 in May. They scored the sixth most in April, the 20th most in May. They had more doubles and triples in Major League Baseball in April. 51 doubles, fourth best, 8 triples, tied for the first. They had 29 home runs in April. They had 24 in May. You can see they stole more bases in May versus April. 23 in May, 17th in April. But overall, I mean, the largest thing for me that stands out is if you take a look at their strikeouts. They struck out 195 times in April. That was the fourth fewest in baseball. And Pete Alonso really was behind this. He struck out, I believe, one time less than he walked for the month of April. For the month of May, they struck out 206 times thus far. It's the 16th best. So it's a drastic, change there. If we look at the pitching statistics from April and May for the team, we'll see in April there was the second best team ERA overall at 2.68. They're about a half a run worse in May at 3.16. Still seventh best in Major League Baseball. Their WHIP was 1.21 in April. It's now 1.32 for May, 19th best. The batting average against has gotten better. It was 2.32 in April. It's 2.26 in May. Where the Mets pitching staff as a whole in May have kind of gotten worse, and it's affected them a little bit, is their walks. They're striking out about a batter less per game. They were 9.56 in April. They're 8.35 in May. But they're walking about almost a batter and a half more. So they were walking 3.05 per game in April. That was 7th best. Now they're walking 4.42, 30th best. Their walk to strikeout ratio is 1.89. It is the 28th best in Major League Baseball for May. That's where the Mets pitching staff is kind of declined this month. It could be as a result of playing better competition, having to be more careful with your pitches, pitching around batters. It's interesting to see how that statistic will hold up or go down in June. Speaking of June, let's look at the June schedule. So the Mets have 10 games in the gimme category for June. 4 games with the Rockies, 3 with the Nationals, 3 with the Pirates. They have 10 games in the competitive category, 3 with the Rays, 7 with the Braves. Now, some people may say, hey, the Braves, I know what their record is, but they're still a good team. They're doing much better now. They're climbing out of the cellar. They're now in third place. They're gaining ground. Maybe they should be listed as a top team. I don't think they're there yet, so I'm not putting them there. They're probably one of those teams that would get bumped up later on into that category. For now, we're leaving them uncompetitive. And then they have 7 games against the top teams for the Dodgers, 3 with the Phillies. So if we say that the Mets, let's say, win 7 out of the 10 games for the gimme games, they win every series, so 3 or 4 with the Rockies, at least 2 or 3 with the Nationals, 2 or 3 with the Pirates, that's 7 games. They win both series with the Rays and the Braves, so 2 out of 3 with the Rays, at least 4 out of the 7 with the Braves, so that's 6 there. 7 to 6 is 13, and then let's say they split with the Dodgers, 15, and they win 2 out of 3 with the Phillies, 17. So that puts them at a 17-10 record for June. So would you sign up for that today? Would you sign up to go 17-10 in the month of June? That will put our record at 51-32. 19 games above 500. I would sign up for that in an instant right now. Let me know your thoughts. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with how I classified any of the teams, any of the categories? Are you seeing anything that maybe I'm not? For me, I feel that the Mets pitching staff is holding up. I think the bullpen having to pitch as much as they have has some of the arms tired, which leads to some of the control issues, which may lead to some of the walks. We saw Garrett Reed lose control of the strike zone not too long ago, I believe against the Yankees. you know, we brought up also Daniel Nunez, who just couldn't throw a strike. He's been sent down. I mean, the Mets, they struggle with the competitive games. These teams that are, good, maybe not great. The players didn't step their game up. In those games, we had trouble hitting runners in scoring position. It affected us even more. There were tight games. That's probably what we went 4-6. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to finishing off this month. Hopefully the Mets do sweep the Rockies, finish this month off strong, 2 games against Gimme Team, start off the month strong with 1 game against them in June, and then we get going. Are we looking forward to the Brave series, the multiple series? What about playing against the Dodgers and playing against the Phillies? Um, I guess there can be 2 lines of thought with that. We're not playing well. I don't want to see these teams right now. Or, you know what? I think that the Mets will come out of it. I think these teams will help bring those competitive juices out of them. Maybe jumpstart things, get things going. And it's a opportunity for us to put more room between us and the Braves and to, you know, take back the lead from the Phillies. Um, we're in second place right now. The Phillies are in first. 2.5 game lead. Where do you think the Mets will be at the end of June? Um, maybe I'll do a video next on what the Phillies and Braves schedule is for the month of June, and where I think the standings will end at the month of June. So that'll probably be my next video. So that'll be coming out soon. I'm also working on a video on Francisco Lindor, where I'm going to go over my thoughts on his career and where his projections are headed. I believe he is going to be a future Hall of Famer. But yeah, so if you like this video or any of my other videos, I would very much appreciate it if you can like the video, if you can subscribe to the channel. We have an off day today. Tomorrow we start our 3-game series with the Rockies, so I'll be back to recap that series. But until then, Met fans, let's go Mets.